afternoon, everyone. My name is Breell, and you're officially on the news behind the news, Mix 94.7 FM. And before we begin, I'll just have you introduce yourselves and tell us about your role here at the airport.
Okay. My name is Mirto Breell. I am the former technical director of the airport. I am now in the function as the project director for the reconstruction of the terminal.
My name is Mingo. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Princess Juliana International Airport, the operating company, and I've started here in 2019, of course, with the main objective to do a reconstruction project.
So, with that, thank you for the introduction, because indeed, this afternoon I'd like to get into the reconstruction of the airport. The first question is really a question that everyone asks, which is, why did the airport take so long to rebuild? And can you walk us through the process of getting to the point where we are now that it's officially being reconstructed?
Okay, so in 2019, when I arrived, one of the key things was the reconstruction. Guys, I'm recording.
They're aware.
Yeah. So in 2019, when I started here, one of the key objectives at that moment was the reconstruction of the airport, the rebuilding of the damaged terminal, which happened in 2017. And that is where the terminal had extensive damage due to the hurricane. The problem was the capital package that was available at that time wasn't sufficient enough to rebuild the airport. So that program started to look for funding, and the funding actually was concluded in 2020, in March of 2020. So we put a package that fit, it was tailored for the airport because the airport already had an existing loan. So we had to put this thing together, and then we put it together with the government of St. Martin, and of course with the Kingdom, and the European Investment Bank and the World Bank. So all of that inside of a consolidated loan to fund of the package that we have here today. So the package that we have here today is in excess of 100 and let me see, 50, 90 is close to, oh, this is a good one. So it's $140 million, give and take, for the funding of the project right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. So I know that basically once things were set in motion, the project got going, one of the main things that had to take place was the more remediation. So can you detail that process in terms of how long did it take, and also a concern that several had in terms of the environment was that garbage or debris sent abroad?
I think since this is a very technical, detailed project topic, I think Mirto is the best person for this.
Yeah.
We had a more remediation and waste removal project that was carried out in 2020, where we had a contractor come down out of the United States. We had an open bidding that was done, where we had international as well as locals being able to participate in the process. The contractor that won was a contractor out of the United States who had the best package to do the more remediation as well as the waste removal from the terminal. And they were able to do that project from October 2020 all the way up to about March 2021. The project itself was the removal of all of the damaged material within the building. We're talking about the sheetrock, a lot of the rusted metals, a lot of e-waste that was still within the terminal that was not going to be part of the new design. They were able to remove all of those in separate waste streams, and most of the garbage was taken off premises. They shipped it to different international locations, as well as the metals were actually left on the island because we found a provider on the island that could utilize those metals. But everything else was taken off island.
Okay. Even as I look at the basically synopsis of the damage that took place from the hurricane, was the shell of the terminal at all affected besides the roof being blown off and everything inside?
The structure of the building, we had the assessment was done. The steel structure was intact. There was no damages to that. But as you indicated, 90% of the roof was compromised, as well as all of the doors was also blown in.
Okay. Okay. So, news that came out last year was the fact that the main contractor was Breell International BV. And one of the questions in terms of their role in the reconstruction project is why them? And I ask that in the sense of what made their proposal or their bid stand out in compared to the other bidders.
Okay. As you know, this is a World Bank project, and we needed to go through the World Bank procedures, where we had a lot of criteria that was put in place for all of the bidders to be able to carry out the project. And one of the criteria that we had put in there was for them to show them how their team was going to be able to work together, as well as how they're going to be able to incorporate local content, local contractors into their bid. And when we reviewed the bids of all of the bidders that actually submitted, Breell did have one of those bids that was best put together on how they were going to be able to include those in their reconstruction works. And based on that, they were chosen as the best, based on their pricing, of course.
Okay. And just a little backtrack, as you responded to the question about the no remediation, with the debris that comes from the current reconstruction also be sent abroad, or that was just?
That is the intention. Any of the contaminated waste that may be in any of the locations, because we will be destructing or dismantling all of the restrooms. So all of that waste that is will be taken off island. But what can be reused on the island would also be trying to be able to donate to different locations. We have like hand dryers, we have a couple of doors, we have certain things that we're also looking to see how we can be able to donate them to areas that could use them on the island.
Okay, gotcha. And so even as you also mentioned World Bank, the process of reconstructing the airport has several stakeholders. And so when it comes to your reporting and providing updates, who are those stakeholders that you mainly have to report to besides the supervisory board or shareholder for us?
The biggest stakeholders that we have are the ones that utilize the airport. So we have to start first with our employees, which is our biggest stakeholders. Then we're looking at the airlines, the concessionaires that work around, the community around us, and of course St. Martin on its whole. Since we are a touristic product, we also report to the tourist office, both front side and Dutch side. So we keep them abreast on all the progress that's going on throughout the construction.
Okay. Will the area that's being reconstructed in any way have any moment where it will affect the current space that's being used?
Yes. This is we're working within an operational building. So the intention is to open it in phases. So when we are completed one phase, we're going to be able to move the operation from present location, which is package 1, into that reconstructed phase. So it's going to be a good juggle between the operation and the construction, and a lot of communication is being had right now between the airport, the contractor, to make sure that we don't have any security issues, any safety issues as that phasing takes place.
Okay.
Oh, I wanna just rewind on the previous question too on the stakeholders. Remember that the funding is also going through government. So the structure of the airport is one that you have a operating company, a holding company with of course their boards, management, and then of course is the sponsors because we also have some U.S. sponsors back bondholders in 2012. They also released their insurance proceeds, and one of the key things here is of course you need to quarterly give them an update on the business, and of course there's a whole recovery happening right now after COVID. So, all of these stakeholders, like what Mirto mentioned, what Mr. Breell mentioned, is you need to keep them informed also on the progress being made on the project. So there's two parts, of course, the recovery of the business and of course the rebuilding of this new airport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of clarity, because it has been mentioned that the stakeholders also work working with the airport, but to what capacity? Is it just in terms of overall management, or does it relate to the reconstruction project as well?
In 2019, when we started with this rebuilding, let's call it rebuilding, one of the key things is we have noticed that the airport is very good in a tactical approach, but when you look at the big scope of works, we said, let's bring the best to the table, and we kind of looked at the sponsor. One of the key sponsors in this whole rebuilding is the Netherlands, the Kingdom government with the government of St. Martin. So we decided then also to bring Schiphol to the table for support, assistance, technical assistance, as well as project assistance. And we have, it is in the form of the CFO at this moment is part of the management board. So they have a CFO candidate that is part of the management board, and they have other persons, resources in the project team to assist. The airport is very good in landing and moving of passengers and planes, but an airport doesn't do projects. It's not built, an organization not built to do projects, so we brought in resources from Schiphol to assist us with this.
Okay. One of the things that did take place once Balanceda was awarded the basic contract to rebuild the terminal building is job fair. Can you provide us any information where that's concerned in terms of the estimate of how many persons were employed and the like?
Sure.
The job fair actually was on the 18th of December 2021. We had a lot of folks came through. When we spoke with Balanceda, they estimated close to 200 persons came by for the job fair, many in different disciplines. So they are now crunching those numbers to see when they're going to be able to bring those people on board. And again, I cannot guarantee everybody's going to get a job, because we need to make sure that the resources that they require is the ones that they can find. But from what I understood from them, they were very happy with the turnout.
Okay.
So we expect to see many locals on the job.
Okay. And so as far as the current works, what exactly is taking place in the terminal?
So from last year, October, when they first took over the site, there was a lot of site surveys was done to make sure that we get a zero survey on where the building is and what all the work needed to be carried out by verifying the design and stuff. We have a supervising engineer that's also helping us to ensure that all of the work scope is correct. We have a lot of requests for information was provided where we're just verifying all of the design work. Presently, they're in the terminal and they're doing dismantling works on a lot of the aspects of the terminal. They started from the top layer and they're working their way down. So presently, dismantling work is going on, and we expect that reconstruction really starts in March, which is next month.
Okay. And so phase 2 of that will just be the overall laying out of the proposed plans, like the drawings and.
Well, the phase 2, we need to look at the phases as when we move operations from one location to the other. So the reconstruction, where we discussed, is going to be on the top layers, the 2 top floors. They expect to have those completed by the end of this year.
Okay.
At that point, that departure level will become operational. So all of those persons who will now go through package 1 and they sit within the ground floor will be moved to the level 1 for departure. And there's where the second phase will start, where they will start reconstructing those areas at that point, the ground floor areas.
So like the airport, if you can recall right now, the ticket counter will be the same. But then the difference is when you depart, you will no longer go to the hall, you will go upstairs and actually depart via you go upstairs and then back downstairs. So you have a bigger waiting area, bigger concession area. So, it's a puzzle. And while we are finishing one area, that goes online, so we'll free up. So it's a whole phased approach, and that is one of the challenges the airport has because of the existing operations and of course of the phased opening and rebuilding of the airport. So it's going to be a combination of those movements.
Okay.
And at the end of this year, of course, like what Mr. Breell said, upstairs will be ready and go online. So you will be departing via upstairs. So the jet bridges will not be on there yet, but you will be using that area, go back downstairs, and then you will go towards the airplanes.
Okay, gotcha. I like that. I like that you said that because I'm actually going to ask about I think that the bid was recently put out for
The passing water bridges.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That would then be
Yeah.
one of the places for next year.
But Mirto is going to go more in details, but there are two parts, two main chapters of this. So, of course, is the works that is going on right now with the main contractor, and then they have equipment packages, because we wanted to control the type and quality of these packages, which is the equipment packages. We wanted to have control on the elevators, the baggage handling, as well as the jet bridges, because it's specialized. And we wanted to make sure that the quality is within our scope. We've took the initiative to do this bidding ourselves, and maybe Mirto could give some more details on the timelines and also on the deliveries of these.
So we have 7 equipment packages that we're looking at. You saw 2 of them went out, and we received them back in February of this year, January, February of this year. They were the baggage handling system and the passing border bridges. We expect those to come. We should expect to be able to award them next month in March, early April, and from there we expect the contractors to be able to deliver them close to the end of this year, 2022. We do not believe they will be installed at that time. We're still having that conversation. Well, we didn't start a conversation, but we're going through the evaluation stage still. Once we have the contractor on board, we'll be able to give a better timeline on when those equipment packages will be installed.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, because that was actually one of the follow-up questions. But another question I have for you, even as it relates to the labor aspect of it, has Balance Needham notified you of any difficulty in getting any particular personnel locally that they may have to bring in?
Well, you know, they have service level agreement with the government, where they sign on that they will look for all of their resources locally, be it equipment or personnel. And if they cannot find it, only at that point they will be able to ask for a work permit for foreigners. At this point, we're not at the point where they need specialty workers, but there will be some specialty contractors coming in for different aspects of the construction. And we're hoping that the local labor will be able to work along with them to be able to do the installations.
Okay. As far as the scope or capacity of the new terminal, will it also remain the same, or will that be different?
The size of the terminal will not change. We're going to bring it back pre-Irma footprint.
Okay.
But we're looking at the dynamics within the terminal is going to change a bit. We had the opportunity to reorganize offices, work spaces, flows, technologies. So it's going to be something within the same footprint, but of a different caliber.
Gotcha.
Remember, we've been there for 15 years, and we've the airport, the existing superstructure, like what Mr. Breell said, is intact. The cladding is that some of it will be replaced. We've learned the last 15 years where we could improve the whole logistics. We've included a lot of automation. One of the key things that I was an advocate for was escalators. When you arrive, that you don't go through stairs anymore, but actually escalators. It makes the travel much more efficient. On board, the carrying bags that you go down an escalator from one level to the other level. And there are some other improvements on the whole layout of the airport. But the main thing here is, of course, that we will look towards the changes, because travel has changed the last 15 years. There's more self-care, there's more do-it-yourself, people do things online. So it's moving towards this new modern way of traveling, and then meet the demand of the traveler, the modern traveler.
Yeah. So even with that response that you just gave, can you also elaborate a bit more on what amenities and services will be included in this newly built terminal that will make it stand out?
Well, the airport is designed back in 2005 for 2.5 million movements, 2.4 to 2.5 million movements. the best year that we had was around 1.8. That was back in 2016. And Mirto will go in, Mr. Breell will go in more details of this. One of the key things is, of course, the whole automation of how you check in, and also the whole biometrics of identifying yourself. So, with the self-drop, the self-tagging, the self-check-in, etc., it becomes much more efficient. We have to remember that we're in the Caribbean, and even the regular Caribbean person doesn't have credit cards. People still have money under the mattress. So we have to also be realistic that there's a lot of old-time folks in the region. So that said, we keep our open mind. We're going to modernize the airport, but of course, keeping an eye on the old-fashioned way of traveling too.
And just to elaborate a little bit on what Mr. Mingo already pointed out on the technologies, we're also building back for resilience of the airport. As you know, the doors of the terminal was blown in during the hurricane. We are now building back to make sure that those doors are stronger to be able to withstand the hurricane. We already did the roof, which was now first built to withstand 130 miles per hour. We've now strengthened that to 185 miles per hour wind speed. So those are the resilience we're looking already to put in the terminal. The bridges, for example, which was twisted from the hurricane, and because of the salt that we have here was always rusting and stuff like that. We're now putting in more resilient for salt in the area that we're working from. And then, of course, the technologies. We also had discussions with all our stakeholders, as we mentioned before, the airlines, the concessionaires, even the immigration's customs, to let them give an input on the stuff that they had within the pre-Irma terminal to what they wanted changed. We were able to incorporate the majority of their requests into the design. So those are the stuff that's going to come on board.
Okay. One of the things that of course is a concern of many is as far as the completion date. When is that expected? And I mean, I guess it's kind of early, but we do see that target date actually happening, right?
So when we started in 2019, we had a whole blueprint of the design, and we said it's going to take us around just under 2 years to complete the rebuilding of this new airport. We've got the funding part that was delayed a little bit, and then of course we had to deal with a second crisis, which is the whole pandemic that is still going on today. But we have updated the whole timeline, and we set it at Q3 of 2023. Somewhere in the month of August, September latest, the airport will be completed. So that is our target date set now, August 2023.
Okay.
But we also need to be mindful that we still working within COVID.
Yeah.
Because there's always material streamlines that could be a bit of a challenge, where the logistics and shipment and so forth can come in. Right now, the contractor has not indicated that there's any issues, but we need to be mindful that stuff like this can happen.
Would that affect the costs again as well? If
Logistics is an important thing. I mean, if you look at the price of a 40-foot container before COVID and now, you see there's a hike in those logistical costs. But you have to also remember that the airport will go online in phases. So it's not one grand opening that you will have. You'll see pieces and the different halls and different areas go online until we have the completed airport in one big update of having all the halls online. So you will see the improvements as we go along down after March. End of this year, you'll see the hall for departure, and then next year, in 2023, you'll see most of these halls being going online. And then you say, well, that all of a sudden you have this new airport with updated facilities, and then you of course have the grand opening, and that's something we're all striving for or looking forward to.
Definitely. Okay, with that, that is actually all from me. If there's anything else you'd like to add?
I think one of the most important thing is that we all need to work in harmony. that's the only way we're going to get this airport fixed. You know, everyone's desire is to get this airport fixed. There's a lot of goodness out there, you know, to improve the island, improve the economy. We're in a recovery phase right now, you know, after COVID. If you see what we did last year we clocked just below the 60% recovery if you compare it to the passenger movements of 2019. This year we projected it just above the 80%, and the first month of 2022 we did 89%. So it's quite above what we are expecting. So the first month looks good, but it looks promising. There's light at the end of the tunnel, but we need to work in harmony, meaning to say all stakeholders need to be on board, and then we can get this thing done very easily. Yeah, and I just want to thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, great. Thank you.